Hey, so today I'm sharing my best advice for new pet photographers. I have been in business for 2.5 years and have had some monumental failures and successes along the way. So I'm not so far along in my journey than where you are right now. But there is definitely a lot that I can share early on in business to help you avoid major missteps and pitfalls in your own business journey. So let's get started. Now, before we get there, be sure to subscribe down below and tap the bell. You guys know what to do so you never miss a brand new video all about pet photography. Piece of advice number 1, stop trying to be like everyone else. I cannot tell you in the first 2 years of business how many times people have sent me underwater dog photos, treat catching photos, holy powder dog action shots, and told me, you should do this. So I felt and still feel sometimes like I need to do those types of photography to be relevant, even though they're not really my aesthetic or style at all. And it was very disheartening because it made me feel like I had to kind of fit into this mold to be successful, or copy someone else's work in order to get work. And I think it's a very normal thing when you get started to look at other people's work for inspiration and awe, but that's where it should end. In my opinion, which of course take all of this with a grain of salt, when it comes to your own pet photography style, you really have to kind of forge your own path and figure out what your style is. That's not only going to set you apart in the industry and make you more valuable, but it's going to prevent you from looking like a copycat, or that you're ripping off or trying to make money off of and profit from someone else's original ideas. So be yourself, figure out what your style is, and run with it. Piece of advice number 2, set boundaries with your clients. I initially did not have a contract with my sessions, and having one early on especially would have saved me a lot of just time and heartache and energy and stress along the way. Now I have one from the Law Tog, which I think it was about $350, but it is specifically designed for pet photographers, and it also includes a media and print release. I'm not an affiliate, I just really appreciate the service of what they provide for photographers, and I will definitely link that down below. Now, if that is something that you cannot do right now, you could literally have them sign a very simple PDF or piece of paper in person drafted up that has a few of your sort of base policies, right? So these could look like what your office hours are and when you're willing to communicate with a client, how you like to communicate, whether that's email, phone, direct message, what have you, how clients can book with you, when their payment is due, or if you take a deposit, what sorts of things you're willing to tolerate or not tolerate during a session, your cancellation policy, how your images can and cannot be used, the type of editing that you'll do if you charge travel. I know that was a list of things, but I wanted to just give you some that you could kind of start and run with. These are really pivotal when it comes to protecting yourself and your business, but also really showing up like a professional. And I have found that with my contract, the opportunity for people to take advantage of my time or my energy has diminished significantly because they can read everything laid out in my contract for them right there on paper. So if you want to protect your business and your work, be sure to start setting boundaries with your clients and sticking to them. Another major misconception when you first start out with your pet photography business is that you have to have the best of the best equipment. So piece of advice number 3, it's not about the camera, it's about the operator. Now, I only upgraded my camera recently to what I would consider a much fancier camera, and I'll do a video all about that, why I switched to the R6 and switched to mirrorless and all that stuff, and it would be linked above here. But prior to that, guys, I had a super beginner basic camera and one lens, and I was able to make anywhere from $250 to $2,000 per client. So let me say that again. It's not about the camera, the lenses, the fancy bells and whistles. It's about the operator. So try to learn everything that you can, not only about your equipment, light, editing, and shooting manually so that you can create stunning work, even with a more rudimentary camera system. The more that you know also, the stronger of a photographer that you'll be, so that when you do finally upgrade, your work is only going to improve leaps and bounds. Piece of advice number 4, it's okay to fire a client or reject or not accept a client if they are not the right fit for you. And I know that it's Easier said than done, especially when you only have a very small handful of clients, but knowing when you need to fire a client or if a client isn't the right fit for you is going to be really beneficial for you in the long run. Trust me, you do not need the headache because you're the owner of your business. And if you feel like someone doesn't value you, they're not treating you well, they're constantly complaining about you, you're pricing the photos, they're harassing you, then those are a lot of big red flags that they are not your client. So I'll give you two quick examples of not the right fit clients for my own business. First, the first client that's really not a good fit for me is a breeder. It was never my intention when I started my pet photography business to work with breeders. So when a breeder contacts me, I just politely decline and say that I don't have the right qualifications or experience to photograph them. And that's true. I know that it's turning down work, but I really understand who my ideal client is and where my strengths lie in my business. And it's not for photographing for breeders because there are a lot of photographers who specialize in that specifically. Now, secondly, I had a client win not one, but 2 gift certificates from the same auction 2 years in a row. And this was before I stopped giving away gift certificates for inexpensive raffles and auctions. Now, my first mistake was to allow that client to win more than once, and I've since remedied that. But this client, who I'm not going to name, was late to both of her sessions, was in terrible communication, even though I was constantly in touch, and would already ask questions that I had already previously answered in emails, wanted more from an already free session, right? Requested some really challenging locations to shoot at, and just had really, I think, unreasonable standards about the images, even though she was late, it was an inexpensive session, etc., etc. And then the last thing for me that was a huge red flag was that she wanted to tell me how to edit the photos. Now guys, I should have fired her right after the first session. Instead of honoring the second gift certificate, I should have just refunded her the donation that she made to the nonprofit, because the time and energy that I had spent working with her for free, because she's never bought a single thing for me, was way more than the donation that I could literally have just paid back to her and gotten her off my plate, right? That's not to say that you shouldn't fix something if a client is unhappy, because if the issue is genuine, that's an entirely different story and approach. What I'm saying is that this client didn't care about me from any other pet photographer. She just wanted a very cheap experience, photos of her dog, and was gonna take full advantage of the gift certificate that she won and was gonna try to squeeze as much out of that as possible. Plus, you can tell just by working with someone and the conversations that you have, the gut feeling that you sort of get, if there are gonna be a lot of issues or red flags along the way. Sometimes it's just best to cut that client loose and move on to bigger and better things. So learn from my lessons. Remember that it is okay. You are the business owner. You are the artist. It's all right to fire a client or to not accept a client if they're not the right fit. Now, piece of advice number 5, you have to value yourself and what you do before anyone else will. This not only is financially, but also with your photography skills. When I first started, I did so much for free, and it's because I didn't believe in myself, or I didn't believe in myself as a photographer enough to even ask $50 or $100 from my clients. And I know that some of this belief in ourselves comes with time, and I'm actually gonna drop another video here all about creating belief as a pet photographer. But if you wanna become successful, you've gotta start valuing what you do early on and charge accordingly for it. This goes in line earlier with what I said about boundaries too. Boundaries are another way to value who you are and what you do, your time, your energy, etc. Even if your session starts super low early in your business, that's money that you can actually be putting back into investing in yourself, education, and your overall dream of being a pet photographer. Not only that, but if people see that you don't charge at all or you charge too little, especially if you're many years into business, you're just gonna become known as the cheap photographer, and nobody wants that. Being a cheap turn and burn photographer is absolutely a business model if you have the right systems and structure in place, but most people don't, and most people don't want that business model. So taking on a ton of clients is a surefire way to burn out, and the quality of your work will actually suffer. So value what you do. Charge for your sessions, even if it's something small. Set boundaries with your client. Act as the expert you want to become, and everything will start falling into place from there. Now, from one budding and aspiring pet photographer to another, Those are some of my best pieces of advice to help you in your pet photography journey or just starting your business. Now, did any of these encourage or inspire you in some way? Please share any thoughts or insights in the comments below. I'll be out with another brand new video in just a couple of weeks, but as always, be kind and rescue dogs. Thanks for watching.